I am Push, and today we are joined by two of the members of indie rock group Long Range Hustle. We are joined by Paul Brogee and Jay Foster, and Long Range Hustle recently released a brand new album. It is a mouthful, but it is also an earful of good sounds. It is entitled I Am Alive, but only if you say I am. That is exactly what we are here to discuss today with my guests. How's it going today, Paul and Jay?
It is going well.
Going awesome, man. Thanks for the massive intro. That was big. It makes me feel so special.
Hey, we got to bring it in big. Got to get that hype, right?
Yeah.
Hey, and it's an album that I am loving, so it's pretty easy to get some hype behind it. These 10 tracks, front to back, I have been listening to this album for like a week straight here. I am loving it so much, and I just want to dive into things. And first thing that I need to know is your 2019 album Town came out in about February, about 3 years ago now, and you guys were on the road, you were touring, you were going heavy. But then, of course, as with all of us, the world sort of shut down. We had to adapt. So I want to know, at what point did this new album actually begin to take form? Were you guys writing songs while you were on the road, or did you begin to write after you sort of got stuck at home?
I mean, the start of a lot of the songs on this new record were developing through that sort of 2019 Town era. We were touring really heavily, but when we weren't touring, we were getting together to start jamming the new record, because we already knew at that point that we had a stack of songs that we wanted to work on. And in December 2019, we were already making those concrete plans for the next record. We had everything mapped out and ready to go. And then,
studio was like seconds away from being booked. We had a producer in place. We were like, same team as last time. Let's just get ready. Let's do it again. Let's do it in May. And then it was like all our demos were ready and we were just sort of getting ready, finishing lyrics. I mean, we're very slow at finishing our lyrics. So a good portion of those were written after the fact in the pandemic. But yeah, most of the songs started well before. So it was quite a shock.
Okay, so you guys were like ready to get into the studio, put things in motion, and then suddenly it's like, oh, I guess we've got some extra time now.
Yeah, which ended up, I think, all things considered, might have been a boon.
Yeah, for the songs, like specifically the outcome of the songs, a little bit more time to reflect and to work on the songs and think about form and arrangement and stuff, I think probably did help us. I think we were pretty burnt out after like a year or so of trying to tour as much as possible. So to be honest, yeah, I think a little bit of a break would have been nice, but a 2-year break.
Be careful what you ask for, right? Exactly. Oh, so of course, with that 2-year period, and you mentioned that through a little bit of the pandemic, the lyrics were still being formed, maybe changed a little bit. So did the energy that you were trying to capture at the beginning of this album's creation sort of shift with that?
I mean, I don't know if the whole energy shifted, but I think the outcome was that when we did sort of, to juxtapose with Town, when we recorded Town, we mapped out some demos, sent them to Tony, our producer in Scotland, and he sent us some quick notes. Hey, the bridge of this song is garbage, write a new one. Or, things of that nature. And we would then meet in the studio and in the sort of firestorm process, work on all the songs, cut stuff, add stuff, record it, bam, done. And we were sort of gearing up to do that again. It's a real trial by fire album construction process. And what I think changed was suddenly we had all this time, and instead of just sitting on our hands and going, well, let's wait until we can do the Firestorm years later, we were like, well, what can we do with this time? And so we had the luxury of picking things apart at a much more granular level than we normally would be able to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think Tony, our producer, is Tony Dugan, and he's located in Scotland. So we were sort of like, at the beginning of the pandemic, it was supposed to be 2 weeks, and then we were like, maybe we'll have to push back our May date. And then we were like, could we do it in the fall? And then it lasted for another month or so. And I think collectively, I think we both, between Tony and ourselves, were like, do we just do this thing no matter what? Let's set a date. And if I can come, I'll be there. And if I can't, we'll figure it out. And I think that was sort of a point where we're like, all right, so do we sit here and wait around, or do we finish these songs and keep moving forward? And I think our decision was always going to be, let's keep moving forward, because we can always write more songs. So yeah, I mean, that's generally how it happened.
All right, so you guys were already somewhat used to sending the demos and everything to Tony, but it wasn't the whole process. That's what changed a little bit here.
Yeah, I mean, I think we started an entire process where we would meet on Zoom like we're doing now, like everyone does all the time now. And Tony has his studio in Glasgow and would bring our demos up in his control room and start picking them apart, sort of with us on a side screen. And we would talk through each song for the course of a day. And he would be making adjustments in the sort of Pro Tools project file. And we'd try some things out and hack things together, which is really not dissimilar to what we would do in the studio with him, but at a leisurely pace, comparatively. Comparatively. I mean, to have a whole day to sort of sit and toy with things and know that you aren't going to have to record that idea for the actual record 5 minutes after you've concocted whatever sort of arrangement you're talking about. We had the luxury to pick things apart and then sit with them knowing that, well, we're still not going to record for months. So we can take those ideas and further refine them and further distill them down and make sure that everything is sort of working well together.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. So, of course, when it comes to everything had to adapt, you guys can't once again get back out onto the road and begin to hype, hey, we have a new album coming. So you spend most of 2021 releasing a lot of music videos, putting a lot of singles out. So what exactly was the thought behind, okay, so we'll put the album maybe a year out, and that game planning portions, what was sort of that like for you guys?
That was like it was frustrating for everyone, but I think for us, it was like we had finished recording it and getting it mastered by the end of 2020. And we were sort of maybe banking, maybe the summer of 2021, we could start touring again, because we didn't know at the time. And so we were like, let's start putting some singles out in February. And or I think it was end of January, something like that. And by the time the summer hits, we'll have, 3, 4, 5 songs out, and we'll put the album out and we'll go on tour. And then, so we started putting the singles out, and we're lucky enough that we were able to make a music video for every video. Our drummer is an absolute beast and learned how to make music videos all of a sudden through the pandemic. So that was great. But our initial plan was not to put out pretty much every song one at a time. It just, the goalpost keeps getting moved further back, and I think everyone understands that at this point for sure.
So it's sort of just based on, okay, what's the rest of the industry on? Okay, maybe we'll put the album back. Well, just another single for now.
That really is pretty much how it worked. And we are really lucky that AJ did the videography work that he did, because every time we would go, okay, this is when the record will come out. Never mind, we'll not do that. Let's make another music video and put that out instead. be able to lean on that treasure trove of videography skill was huge. Otherwise, I don't really know what we would have done.
Yeah, like we were doing live shows at lunchtime for like every day for a month or so through like the start of the pandemic, because at the time Paul and I were living together, and we were figuring out how to do live shows better on the internet. And I think like it would have been bleak by the end of it, because I don't know if anyone else realized, but like live streaming shows aren't that fun to watch on the internet, even if there's great sound and good like videography. It's after a certain amount of time you're like, I would much rather just be there in person.
Just when can we get this in a pub? Come on.
Yeah, I know.
The taps in my house just don't put out the same quality of liquid. Come on. Oh, fantastic. And of course, you mentioned the amazing videography, and that has helped to tell the story of this album and sort of AJ's hand in that. And you can sort of see the growth through each video and like the skill as well, sort of leading up to you guys' most recent video, which released, I believe, the same day as the album for election night there. And that video is amazing.
Yeah.
Thanks, man. Like, it's actually, I feel the same way. I'm just so proud of AJ and his like ability to direct and edit that whole thing. I mean, he was working with a good friend of ours, Josh Hawley. No, it's not Josh. I always do that. Josh Hawley's like some guy, some politician somewhere. That's not very cool. Jack Hawley.
There we go.
Yeah, he's based out of Toronto. And he's so good. He's a great videographer and a director himself. So those two working together was fantastic on this one.
AJ, I think for years leading up to 2020, was always this guy who had crazy ideas for music videos. And when we were doing Town, he'd go, "Oh, I have this idea for a music video. We should be playing on a TV screen, and then we'll like come out of the TV like The Ring," or But we were always like, I mean, yeah, that'd be cool, but that sounds like expensive. Who would do that? We would have to pay people to make that video, and we're an indie band. The video budget is not massive, and so I think for some reason that like switch went in his brain where he's like, well, then if we can't get some production company to do this, I will learn how to do it from scratch. And like you were saying, you can really like see the progression of his skill over the course of this record, where the early videos, I mean, were really good, but like much simpler. And you can sort of see him progress with his like expanding skill set all the way to election night, which was this multi-day shoot, multi-location. We were able to get actors in to play the politician and the politician's wife. And watching him on the shoot days was such a cool experience, because I mean, he's a fantastic drummer and musician, but he had this whole other presence where suddenly he wasn't AJ the musician, he was AJ the director, striding confidently around the set, being like, all right, we need camera one on this place. I don't know anything about cinematography. So he's got a bunch of cinematography sounding stuff.
Yeah. Camera, lens, thinking maybe a walking shot this way. Yeah,
he was more lenses.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, and it is even like you say, it's maybe simpler at the beginning, but way better than I could do. And then you get to the end of it, and then like, yeah, with election night, you've got like the cuts and the scenes and like the storytelling, and like when you get to the end and it's just like boom, 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 and like the timing of it all with the music and everything, it just amplifies, and it almost makes it like its own like less of a music video and almost like a little mini movie.
Yeah. I mean, even the length, it's like a long song, so it does end up sort of looking and feeling like a short film. It's kind of nuts.
when you have that 6-minute runtime, you are able to sort of build a whole story in a way that's a lot harder if you're doing like a 2.5 minute, 3-minute long song, for sure.
Absolutely. So, of course, we talked about the visual aspects of this song, and of course, I'd love to dive behind the musical, the lyrical aspects of everything as well. So, is the music video a fairly like direct representation of what the lyrics are of this song, or do the lyrics sort of touch on something else here?
Yeah, I mean, the song is written as, I guess, like an allegory, but the video is tracking the sort of direct story of the song pretty faithfully. The song is this story about a politician and a wife who have a relationship that sort of crumbles under the weight of his ambition. And it's not a relationship that is bad or toxic or abusive. It is one of two people who want the best for each other, but realize that the price that they would have to pay to achieve whatever the sort of electoral dreams this candidate has is simply too high to be able to maintain that relationship. And you sort of watch as they make the decision where he says, you know what, I'm going to go for this. And she realizes that this is probably just the end. And so, you know, it's meant to be tragic and bittersweet. And the build up through that bridge to the end where you cut back through all of these flashbacks, watching their sort of entire relationship over the span of months or years. It's a little ambiguous, and leading up to that final moment where the confetti goes off and he wins, and that is that sort of point of no return. And then she walks out the door. So it is really following the content of the story pretty closely.
Yeah, and I love the quote at the end of the music video there as well, with the maybe with enough practice we could become better strangers.
Yeah, it's funny. That was part of a little postlude epigraph type of thing, that I had this idea for a little, in the same way that Beeswax on the record has this little post-song memorandum. I had this idea for a little musical memorandum that closes out election night. And then it didn't really make sense with the way that the song ended after we sort of fleshed it out, and it falls away to those ooh-ahs. And it really didn't make sense to have something like start up and do a little tag on that. So it didn't end up going anywhere. But when AJ was making the video, he was looking up the lyrics, which we sort of have on a Google Drive somewhere. And he saw that little bit at the end of it. And he was like, is this in the song? Where does this go? It got cut, but I'll tack it onto the end of the video. So it got a little second life.
Yeah, I was trying to listen for it inside the song, and I couldn't pick it out of the lyrics, so I was sort of wondering, where was this born out of? Oh, that's fantastic. And of course, you guys, we mentioned that this video released the same day as the album, and of course, you also had the opportunity to play an album release party the same night, I believe, as well. How was it like to finally return to the stage, bring these new songs to the fans?
Man, it was crazy. Honestly, we played a few shows in November when things were lifted up a little bit, and that felt really great. But there was always like this looming, like, the album's coming out in February, like hopefully we can have a show. And literally, like, I think it was like 3 weeks beforehand we got the show. But up until that point, we were like, I guess we'll have to do a live stream because we don't have any choices. Like, we were trying to get into different venues and no one was like saying yes or no. And we were like, oh no, like, we're going to have to do this thing as a live stream. And then we were like, you know what? let's not do a live stream. We'll do a live listen through with our fans. And then all of a sudden, like Avin texted us, like, do you want to do Lee's? Like on the same day of the release? We're like, what? Yes. Oh my God. And I think it was just it was so lucky. And the night itself was like extremely special. It's the first time we've headlined Lee's, and it was pretty packed in there, and people were singing along to all the songs that we had released throughout the year. And it was just a wild experience. So
for a whole process, like this entire album release cycle has been marred by setbacks and things not working and having to cancel things, and to finally have something click and like where everything comes together in the perfect way was so not how this record has gone up until now. And so it really did feel like there was a little bit of karma coming our way after such a long and difficult album cycle. To have everyone there celebrating it with us was, like Jay was saying, it was really something special.
Yeah, what are the chances that like 3 weeks out, like, I mean, normally when the world is completely open, the chances of booking Lee's 3 weeks out are like non-existent at all, right? And then just to like have it just fall in your lap, like, hey man, you want to do that? Absolutely. What?
Did you even know that we had an album coming out? It just was like, oh my God, you were so lucky.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
The night itself was unbelievable. It is a very cool feeling to headline a room that you've seen so many of like your favorite bands play in before. You know, I remember seeing Winter Sleep play an unbelievable show there, and
they put out The Great Detachment. That was their album. And I was like, yeah, that was wow.
It's a really cool thing to sort of feel like you are on that stage and like you kind of belong there. And it's not that you feel out of place, but you get to that spot where you walk out onto stage in that moment, and you really do feel like, I'm right where I'm supposed to be.
You have nerves just the like days leading up to it, but that one moment, like right beforehand, you're like, no, I'm good. All right, let's go.
I was the day of, I was very frayed nerves, and even sitting in the green room, sort of up in that corner room beside the stage leading up to it, I was like, is everyone gonna leave? Like everyone could just walk out the door before we get on stage. That could still happen. So
yeah. This is like it's like the abusive relationship we had with this pandemic of like, are you gonna let us do the thing? No? Oh, okay. Sorry.
It's so close.
As though like the owner of Lee's runs on stage and is like, wait. There was a mistake. Obviously you weren't supposed to play this show. What were you thinking?
Long range hustle. No, we thought we booked hustle long range. Dang it.
Oh my God. So, it was a really cool experience to actually get to walk out on that stage and have everyone sing the songs with us and go a little bit crazy.
Yeah, they got pretty reckless. It was great.
I love it. And I love that you guys had that opportunity, and I've had a blast diving behind this new album. I have one last question for you both. Are you ready for it?
Mm-hmm.
All right, perfect. So of course we've talked about the process of this album, just exactly that. It's getting there, having it taken away, just this past 2-3 years of finally getting here to I Am Alive, but only if you say I am. And what I would like to know now is, through this time, how exactly has it helped each of you to either grow as a person, or what has it taught you about yourself?
Whew. That's a really tough one. I mean, it's not tough, but it's heavy. I feel like I've changed a lot over the last couple of years.
I mean, normally when you make a record, when you write a song, I suppose, but the whole process of songwriting and recording and going from nothing to that final recorded product is something inherently introspective, where you are trying to figure something out and figure out how you feel about something. I think I'm ripping off Donovan Woods by saying that you have to be trying to figure out how you feel when you're creating a song, because if you already know how you feel about it, then you didn't need to write the song in the first place.
Yeah.
And so I think that was doubly so for this record, because the process of making the record is inherently introspective, but doing it at a time when you sort of were forced by the environment and the circumstances of the world to sit by yourself and think about your life, sort of amplified that to an extreme degree.
Yeah. I think that's also why you're asking what we learned over that period of time. I think the name of the album, it's one of the lyrics in Comeback Kid, but I am alive, but only if you say I am. It's sort of like, the first time I heard that line, it hit me really hard, because I feel like being alone that throughout that whole 2-year period, being stuck inside, not being able to interact, that line just became more and more poignant. And I think what I've sort of learned, because I spend a lot of time alone, and if we're writing songs and pursuing artistic pursuits, we're very much, like Paul said, in an introspective mode. And I think the name of that album hits hard, because you realize, like, you do need to share your life for it to be something that happened. It's sort of like, if a tree falls in the forest, does anyone hear it? Like, if you haven't shared your passions and your insecurities, or shared your joy, or sharing your life with other people, then did you really live? Like, I think that's sort of, it's not exactly the context of the line in the album or in the song, but I think for the album, it's sort of like a cry out to like I'm alive, but only if we're going to do this together. So I think that's sort of like something I really hit home through this whole album period.
Wow, that's deep. That's powerful. Just showing that lack of connection these past few years, and just realizing what we had, and maybe we need to stop taking that for granted.
Yeah. Share your life with someone. Come on, Colton, let's go.
Absolutely. I'm trying. I'm the only person in this room right now. Oh my goodness. I have had an absolute blast chatting with you both, Paul and Jay, about this new album here today on the DTP. Thank you both so much for joining me.
Thanks for having us, man.